Discord. If you're not a member, you should be. It is a fantastic community and resource that RotoGrinders provides, and it's easy to join as well. All you have to do is click the Discord icon on RotoGrinders or go to rotogrinders.com/Discord. From there, you'll either sign up if you're new to RG, or if you're already a member, just click the link at the top to go to the sign-in page. Once you've logged into your RG account, you can be taken to Discord to log in there. Once you've connected those accounts, you won't have to leave the server. You can freely close out and reopen Discord without ever having to reconnect. The idea of Discord might be a little bit daunting to you, but it's actually pretty simple to navigate. Whether you're on mobile or desktop, the far left side will show you the Discord servers that you've already joined. Then next to that, you'll see the channels within that Discord. We have both free channels like Chiefs Prop Shop and our daily sport channels. And we also have premium channels like Blender's Game Theory or the Crunch Time channels. Premium members can see the difference between the free and premium channels by looking for a padlock icon next to the premium channel names. We also have a few pointers for new and experienced users alike. If you're having trouble finding a channel, make sure that you haven't collapsed the section that the channel is in. Collapsing a channel will only allow it to appear when there are unread messages in that channel. Also, we find that using the actual Discord program works better than opening it in a browser like Safari or Chrome. Lastly, if you're having trouble with one of our tools, your RotoGrinders account, or any other technical needs, you can hop in our feedback and help section of channels to get help from one of our wonderful support and moderation team members. If you have any more questions, feel free to reach out on Twitter @RotoGrinders or email support@rotogrinders.com. See you in Discord.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to what is it? Saturday afternoon, morning if you're out on the East Coast or West Coast. I'm Britt Devine, joined today by the creator of the Bet and the Blitz, Mr. Derek Hardy, and my boy. He got headlocked last week in UFC, but looking to bounce back a little bit later. Mr. Keith, we call him Ice. Keith, what's up, dude?
Yeah, another busy Saturday. Got day 3 of the NFL draft going on. Decent mid UFC card later on. Not a great card for betting. Don't like a lot of underdogs. I do like Vera in the main event though, so we'll see how that plays out. But not a great UFC card today.
Yeah, we're here. We got a little bit of extra time too, right? Lock isn't until for 45 minutes, so we can BS and have some fun on the show too. Take some extra questions. Cardi, what's up, man? There's we've got 3 different slates we got to talk about today. 2 rain games. I think there's a lot to go about around today.
Yeah, there is a lot. You know, the games are kind of staggered. The sites are approaching the slates differently. So there's a lot to cover.
Yeah, so I want to go over first with everybody. If you didn't read Roth's weather report, let's go over that first and maybe take a couple of generalizations of what we can do because of the weather, right? So on the Fanduel, let's start Fanduel very, very, very early only, right? So that's the 2-game slate that starts at 2:15. That includes the Arizona St. Louis game. Roth has that as yellow. I've got it up on the screen for everybody. I'll just read it, right? Some people are listening on an app or something like that. There's a weak line of showers moving towards St. Louis, which will intensify into a solid line of storms this afternoon around the St. Louis area. They could cause a late start or delay, but with any patience, he thinks it'll play clear from the late afternoon through the evening. Roth's best guess, a late start and play is the most likely outcome, but he also notes teams do stupid things and they might foolishly try to play before the storms get there and we get an in-game delay. So Cardi, right? Let's talk about this real quick from maybe a cash game perspective. And you can play these guys on DraftKings too. The site sort of did us a favor with Nicholas. I like Nicholas's strikeout prop at 4.5. I actually took the over. He's been striking some people out this year, Cardi, and he's going a little deeper. So I like that. They priced him up in DFS, so he's not like a must play. But what are your thoughts on what I want to see them delay this game to start, and then I feel good using basically anybody in this game. If they do something funny and the game starts on time, I'm a little bit more concerned.
Yeah, I'm not sold on Michaelis yet. Like, he's a guy who has never been a big strikeout guy. Like, the stuff really isn't there for it. And it's not like he's really made a lot of gains this year. Like, he's actually throwing a little bit softer than he was, in past years. So I think he's kind of just been the beneficiary of like some good luck, some good matchups. The matchup today is pretty good against Arizona. Like, obviously this is a very weak offense. They're not an especially strikeout heavy offense. I see him as kind of a GPP play, not a guy I'm considering for cash.
And then Keith, what about in tournaments, at least as far as the St. Louis game? What's your approach to this, right? It's the first game. If let's say they start this on time and we're going to get an in-game delay possible, what are we doing with that in tournaments today?
Yeah, I think if they started on time, I have a lot less interest in either pitcher. Like Cardi mentioned, just the strikeout upside isn't huge here. I don't mind Kelly on the other side, but if the game starts on time, I probably will avoid both of these guys. It's not a great slate for pitching, so I think they're both in play, but I am a little bit worried if there were an in-game delay, because then we could lose some innings from them.
All right. The other weather game we have today, and this is the more important one, Cardi, for sure, is the Angels at White Sox. Maybe not so much for pitching, but this is like, if you want to spend up on bats today, you've got Trout and Ohtani are clearly the best two bats in the slate. And Roth has this as orange. He has it, no real change. An in-game delay looks very likely, and a PPD is very possible. This is a little concerning. This is a 4:00 game, I believe. Let me bring up, if I'm correct, let's see here. Yeah, so it's like the latest one of the slate. We don't really know what they're going to do here. I've taken out, I was playing Ohtani. I was trying to play Trout on the slates where you were able to, at least in cash. I've taken them out right before the show. I'm a little concerned about this one.
Yeah, I mean, orange is always
very concerning from Roth when you see an orange straight up.
Yeah, that's where you start to get concerned. I think it's probably better to err on the side of caution. Like, Trout and Ohtani are definitely great today. I don't think they're like so far. I don't think they're like such locks that like you're going to take this risk, at least in cash games. And GBP is like, sure, but in cash, like, you probably don't need them.
Yeah, like, sure, going from Ohtani to Springer or Alvarez, right? It's, obviously you lose a bit of projection, but you're guaranteed the at-bats with those guys on a slate locking. And then as more games start, right, it gets a little harder to move things around. That's sort of the route I've gone. Keith, for the Angels game, Cardi just mentioned GPPs. It could be a little different, right? People see the rain, they see orange, word will get out, right? That Roth has this as an orange. The algorithms will sort of take the ownership down. People will be a little bit less afraid. I mean, this is probably a great spot for offense. What's both sides even, right? Like Abreu and Anderson and Grandal and these guys. How do you handle that game in tournaments being the last game of the slate?
Yeah, difficult situation because it is one of the better spots on the slate. Some decent pitching on the slate, not a lot to love for offensively. I don't know. I think I have them in there right now, and I think I'm leaning towards just sticking with it, hoping the ownership comes down. And as long as we don't get a PPD, the hitters will be fine. The delay doesn't hurt the hitters. So I'm okay chancing it. Probably want to full stack it just in case it does get the full PPD. Then I limit my exposure in my other lineups. So use them mostly only in stacks, but I'm fine keeping them in the pool for now.
If anyone sees anything from Roth, or you see something about a delay on that St. Louis game, right, please put it in YouTube or in the RotoGrinders Crunch Time chat on Discord, and we'll try to assess whatever the situation is as soon as possible. That would be much appreciated. Before we get into actual players on the slate, I want to give a thanks to Fanduel for sponsoring the show. If you are in a state where you can bet, I want to say too, sports betting has been amazing for me. Like it's just it seems easier than DFS almost. Like some of the lines the sportsbook posts, you wake up in the morning and you look at it and they're like, they're just giving me free money today. And you can just click a couple buttons and lock it in. It's really easy. Check out the Fanduel Sportsbook. You can get a risk-free bet up to $1,000. Make sure to take advantage of that if you can. All right, let's go. I don't want to spend a ton of time on the 2-game slate, Cardi, but right, let's talk at least for cash games on FanDuel, right? Because this is the slate I'm playing. It's where they put their biggest games this morning for some reason, instead of giving us a full 6-game slate. You've got Mikolas on the slate, but you've got Jose Berrios too. Berrios, this is like a tale of two pitchers. Berrios hasn't been great this year, and Mikolas has been a little bit better. But Mikolas is priced up. You seem to prefer, along with the bat, saving a little bit on Berrios on this 2-game slate.
Yeah, absolutely. Berrios obviously hasn't been good this year, but he's better than this. We're dealing with really small sample sizes still. It's been 4 games. I think, you save 1,000 on Berrios. So I think he's just, I think he's kind of the easy play. Mikolas is fine. The matchup's good, but I don't see him as a different pitcher than what he's been the last few years. You play him and you're hoping for some volume. You're probably not going to get a lot of strikeouts unless he goes 6 or 7 innings. The matchup's good, but I'm not overpaying for it. Just give me Berrios.
Yeah, I was looking at Mikolas, and the only thing I really noticed, right, velocity, the only thing he's really doing is he's just throwing his fastball a little bit less, and he's throwing a couple of the other pitches a little bit more. That seems to work in today's baseball for maybe getting a couple more swings and misses and a couple more strikeouts, throw the fastball less, but it's not like a ton or anything like that. It's not a big difference. Keith, I'm going to talk about scores and odds here, because you've got Berrios under 5.5 strikeouts. And if you guys don't have scores and odds, go download it from the App Store. It's great for getting just information on the games. And then if you want premium, you get picks from all the guys here at RotoGrinders. Cardi contributes. Keith does. I haven't yet. Maybe someday I will. But why are you, I don't know if you're down on Berrios or you just don't like this number today.
I am slightly down on Berrios. The strikeout rate has been down considerably. I did mention in the write-up that he's probably due for some positive regression here. And I wrote this up before the Houston lineup came out. So I did lose a little bit of value on the line. You can actually get a better line than what I took early this morning. Goodrum is in there for Diaz, which is a huge jump in strikeout rate. And Michael Brantley is out of the lineup today as well, who's a very low strikeout bat. So I don't love this as much as when I wrote it up, but because the line has moved now, I think you can still get plus money on the under 5.5. I do still like it. The stuff just has not been there this season. Houston has a ton of low strikeout bats in there, not as many as usual, but there's still 4 of them in there. Bregman, Alvarez, Gurriel, and Tucker all strike out below 20%. And Berrios just isn't in the best form. So I do still like under 6 strikeouts or under 5.5 strikeouts. But you can get a little bit better number than what I wrote up now.
All right. Now, if we go to the DraftKings slate, Cardi, for pitching, thankfully, we don't have to decide between some of those guys because they've sort of priced up. They priced down a couple, what I would consider maybe not true studs, but reasonably good pitchers on this slate, right? McClanahan and then Bieber at 8,900 against Oakland doesn't make any sense to me. And then you've got McClanahan, who even when he gets hit a little bit, he's still, he's like the only Rays pitcher. He doesn't have the innings leash, but he's very efficient when he's out there. So he can go, or the inning pitches thrown, right? He can go 85, 88 pitches and still get plenty of strikeouts, go 6 or 7, qualify you for the win, the quality start, all of that. Those seem like the pairing I like on DK today.
Yeah, I agree. There's no reason to do anything else in cash games. Like it's just clearly those two. They both project for over 20 points. And the rest of the slate, we barely have any guys over 15. So they're both talent-wise great, matchup-wise great. Both of these offenses are very strikeout heavy. There's no reason to do anything else. And then in GPPs, you can mix stuff in. Like Berrios is 6.8K on DraftKings on this slate. Like I really like him in GPPs here. We kind of just said it, but like this is not a very good Houston lineup today. Like outside of Bregman, Alvarez, and Tucker, I don't think there's a single above average hitter in this lineup, and it is quite strikeout heavy. So I really like Barrios here. I'm not that worried about him, especially because he's had mostly tough matchups so far this year. He faced Boston twice and the Yankees once. So like I'm willing to give him a pass when you're getting him at such a discount. Yeah, I like him a lot. And I think Cole Irvin is also really, really appealing here in GPPs.
Yeah, Cole Irvin, if you play on the prop sites, you can get like his fantasy scores, right? If you're on like Prize Picks or whatever, is just way too low compared to what the bat's giving him today. So that's where I got my Cole Irvin exposure. And the Barrios, I was eyeing him for Cash Cardy when I wanted to play Mike Trout and Ohtani, and they disappeared out of my lineup. I just didn't need him anymore. So I sort of bumped up my pitching price tag overall today. Keith, when you throw in everyone else in tournaments today, right? And you can even mix in on FanDuel, you get a couple of the later games too. You get the 6 o'clock games. What are you looking at in terms of tournaments overall?
It's still Bieber and McClanahan for me at the top. Logan Webb is there as a decent pivot. This Washington lineup doesn't strike out a ton. Webb is not a huge strikeout pitcher either. So I think the upside on McClanahan and Bieber is quite a bit better than what it is on Webb. And we're not getting that big of an ownership discount. So I will probably just try to get overweight on Bieber and McClanahan, leaving me slightly underweight on Logan Webb in the top range. The ownership on Barrios is something I'm trying to get away from too. That's a big number. I know he's probably underpriced, and especially with this Houston lineup, he's in a pretty decent spot today. But I'm trying to pivot off of that ownership. So I do like Merrill Kelly a little bit, obviously keeping an eye on the weather there. But Kelly's velocity has been up. St. Louis is not a team that strikes out a lot, but they are missing Arenado today. So slightly easier matchup than expected. Kelly right there in the same price range. If Barrios can stay under the 5.5K range, I think Kelly can come close to matching that, even in a low K matchup. So I like Kelly as a pivot in the low range.
Is there anyone, Cardi, on the lower price tag range? Is there anyone else you would maybe want to take a shot on? A Chris Archer? I like Keith's Kelly call. Is there anyone else? Irvin's probably your guy, but I don't know. Archer's not really drawing a ton of ownership. Anyone else down there interest you?
Yeah, Archer's still not really fully stretched out. I guess he could probably get up to like 85 or 90 today, but I don't know. I'm not big on Archer. I think Bieber, McClanahan, Webb, Barrios, Irvin, that would kind of be my pool. I think I'm okay with Merrill Kelly. I guess maybe Vince Velasquez, but with the weather there, like that it feels unnecessary. So I think you probably keep a pretty condensed pool today.
All right, let's go to some bats. I guess I'll go to Keith first for tournaments in general. What are the offenses, right? If we lose the Angels and the White Sox, right? They have, I think the two biggest totals are right up there with San Francisco in terms of tournaments. What are the other offenses we might want to use today? Where's the ownership going to end up going? Because if you take out, we've got Trout at, let's see here. Let me get my little touchscreen going. Right, we got Ohtani, Trout, 20+%. You start moving those guys out. If that game gets rained out, the ownership's going to become more condensed. Where does it go? And then what's the spot that might give you some leverage?
I think Toronto ends up picking up quite a bit more ownership. San Francisco would be my next favorite team outside of the Angels, especially the lefties there. Adon has been struggling against lefties, giving up a lot of hard contact to lefties, low strikeout rate. So San Francisco, particularly the lefties, would be my favorite spot. They're cheaper than like the Ohtani Trout range though. So I think you're looking at like Vlad picking up quite a bit more ownership. Buxton is probably a pivot in that top range. I know tough matchup against McClanahan, but people do like to play him against lefties. So I could see a little bit going to Buxton, which is unfortunate because if he does stay like under, like in the 3% range in ownership, I do like him a lot. Jose Ramirez probably picks up a ton, but you're just going to see it sprinkled amongst the 5K range guys, I believe, 4K range on FanDuel. I don't think it condenses necessarily in one spot. If I had to pick the spot, I think the Toronto guys.
And then Cardi, what are on your team totals or anything like that today from the bat? Which team on the slate today gives us like the biggest upside over the Vegas expectation?
That's actually, you're not going to like it. That's the Arizona Diamondbacks against Michaelis. They project 0.8 runs higher than Vegas. Vegas has the total at 325 and the bet has 4.08. They're still not one of like the best offenses on the slate. But if they are going to come in at like no ownership, they are interesting. I think though the teams that I have a little more interest in would be the Rays against Archer and the Astros against Barrios, especially because at his price, like he is going to get some ownership. So you're going to get some leverage there. And, he hasn't been great this year. Like probability wise, yeah, he probably is fine. We'll bounce back. But, at fairly low ownership with leverage, pretty decent prices on a lot of these guys, I think the Astros are a good stack today.
All right. We spent a lot of time talking a lot of different stuff. And even though we had extra time, I feel like we've eaten into a lot of it. So we're going to go through bats a little quicker. Cardi, at least for catcher, probably not on FanDuel. Let's go DraftKings. It's like, I don't want to play anybody. So I'm going with the cheapest guy who's swinging a bat today on DraftKings.
Yeah, catcher real bad today. Like there's like nobody projects well. I think Jason Castro is probably just your choice because he's the cheapest of these crap options. He's 2.3K and there's just no need to spend 5K on, Grandal or 4K on Zunino or like just punt with Castro.
Yeah, lets you get the good pitchers and a couple bats you might actually recognize who their name are, from you wanting to use them in DFS today is sort of what I figured out. In tournaments, right? At least on DK, Keith, is there anyone that stands out to you? There's just like, you're paying up to be contrarian. If you use one of these guys, you're probably using Barrios as your pitcher, or you're not playing any Angels, even if that game plays. You're just really limiting yourself to pay up a catcher today.
Yeah, it's a gross position. I like Castro just because he's cheap. We did just get the Giants lineup, and Kurt Casale is in there for Joey Bart. He's 2,800. I don't hate that. Ryan Jeffers with the platoon advantage hitting 7th. It is gross today. I think if I was going up a little bit higher, Zunino would be the choice just for his power.
All right, I'm perusing Twitter to see if I found anything on maybe a delay in that St. Louis game, and I have not found one yet. So as it stands right now, that game looks like it's going to be on time. I haven't looked to see if it's going to start dry. So if they're going to start that, maybe we get a delay for the pitchers like Ross says. So if they're not going to delay that St. Louis game and start it later in the day, maybe downgrade the starting pitchers if we get a delay, maybe an hour into the game or something like that. I just wanted to bring that up. Let's go to first base. Cardi, Cash, maybe on both sites, right? You've got Vlad. He's reachable today. Doesn't carry, the monster projection he normally does. Because it's a little bit tougher of a matchup today. But you need some bats, especially if you're not going to play some of the Angels in your lineup. Looks like he's a priority spend for me.
Vlad, you said?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. Vlad's clearly the top guy, especially if you're not comfortable with Ohtani. Vlad is just far and away the top option today. Over on FanDuel, I think Paul Goldschmidt is also, you're getting a decent discount on him. I think this spot for him is fine, but Vlad really is the guy that you're definitely going to have in your cash games on both sites. Like I would say pretty much no matter what. You can punt Jordan Luplow on DraftKings is batting second for the Diamondbacks. He's 2.6K. Maybe prefer him a little more in the outfield than at first base, but he is definitely a good way to save some money if you happen to need to do that.
Tournaments, Keith, maybe a little bit more so on DK today. Right, if Ohtani, right, if Roth has that at orange, which is sort of my alert color for him, and we're not comfortable playing him, I think you can in tournaments. You can risk that more so on a stack than a one-off. And Vlad's going to carry a lot of the ownership if people aren't playing Ohtani. Where's that going to go in tournaments?
Yeah, it's not a great slate today for offense. Jared Walsh is one of my favorites, but he's in the same boat as Ohtani. In that Chicago game. So I'm going to play both of them just because the position is so weak. Yandy Diaz, I don't mind as a pivot. He's 4,300 against Archer. Archer may not pitch very deep in the game. Not a great Minnesota bullpen, so I don't mind Diaz hitting third. I think the ownership on Ohtani comes down because of the risk, and the ownership on Vlad comes up. So I'm going to play some Ohtani and just hope that I get him at a lower ownership than expected. Even if I only get 3 at bats from him, hopefully he can bang one out in the 3 at bats.
Yeah, I like Ruff as a upside play on that Giants line. What is he, 3,300? He's carrying a ton of ownership. I don't know if he's actually going to get up to the ownership we have projected, but he's someone, if he's going to be 15% owned, I think that's a little bit more in line. He's certainly someone I might like today. Second base, Cardi, what's the cash game layout there look like?
Yeah, so the top option at second base is Brandon Lau against Chris Archer. He's 4.9K on DraftKings, but I mean, there's lots of ways to save today. Even the aces aren't like overly expensive. So I do think it's easy enough, to get up to him. In terms of like cheaper options or FanDuel options, Nico Goodrum is the guy I'd be looking at on FanDuel in particular. Like he's 2K and he's hitting second, and it's not like they're facing a bad pitcher or anything, but 2K for an okay hitter in an okay lineup, at least good hitters, directly behind him. I think Goodrum is good. I think Ketel Marte, I think a lot of these like Diamondbacks are kind of going to go a little bit under the radar. So I think Marte is fine. I think, especially on that short FanDuel slate, I think Tommy Edman is probably good. On DraftKings though, I do think you're probably just playing Lau, and that's it, or going down to Goodrum. But you can play Goodrum at shortstop also. So I think Lau is probably a guy that you're prioritizing today.
All right, Keith, tournament second base. So what's going on with that?
Yeah, Lau's a great option, but this is a spot where I think it's viable to get different. I love Cardi's Ketel Marte call. He'd be one of my favorite tournament pivots, showing under 5% ownership here on DraftKings. I do like Jorge Polanco as well. McClanahan is a pitcher I'm going to play a ton of, but I do like Polanco with the platoon advantage. Don't mind Edman, but Marte would be my favorite pivot here.
All right, let's go to third base. Cardi on DraftKings. Second base too. I just want the cheap options at second are pretty gross, at least on DraftKings. Third base, there are some cheap options. There are some good spend up options too. Jose Ramirez, right? He's pretty safe pretty much anytime you want to play him. Bregman against Berrios. None of them are in great spots. Are you preferring to spend up, or are you going down a tier?
I think this is a spot where you spend down, even though we have some names at third base here. None of them actually project well. Like Ramirez projects the best, but he doesn't even project for 8 points. Like this is a really tough spot for him. Irvin is a solid pitcher. This is a massive park downgrade. It's one of the colder games on the slate, so I just don't see any reason to pay 5.5 for Ramirez here personally. I'd rather just punt it, spend up elsewhere. I think there's plenty of ways you can save money here. There's probably there's no right play. There's probably like 5 or 6 like viable guys here. I think Wilmer Flores though is maybe the most appealing. 3.9K isn't cheap, but it's like cheap enough. It's a pretty good spot for him. Park upgrade, below average pitcher. So I like Flores quite a bit here. I think the Cardinals guys are definitely in play. Edmundo Sosa, Brendan Donovan. I think, I guess we're probably not risking the White Sox guys, but like Jake Berger would be fine. And then I think Matt Chapman, especially on FanDuel where we're having obviously fewer options with the smaller slate. I think Matt Chapman is a really good play over there. And you could probably throw Alex Bregman into the mix there too.
All right. Before I get to Keith, I want to thank you guys for watching on the YouTube. And while you are over there, if you could show your support, click the thumbs up button. We would greatly appreciate it. It helps other people find us out there on the interwebs and able to get more people watching, which in turn allows us to have these free shows for you. So it would be much appreciated. Keith, tournaments, third base. Cardi didn't like the expensive guys. If Cardi doesn't like it, so many people use the bats projection. Are these guys going to go overlooked today?
Yeah, I think they are a little bit. He mentioned Chapman. He would be one of my favorites. This there's just not a ton of great hitting spots today. And Garcia is, I don't want to say one of the weaker pitchers, but he's not in the top tier. So I don't mind that matchup for Chapman. And then Bregman is the other guy I'm looking to. If Berrios comes out and continues to struggle a little bit, maybe you get into the early part of that Jays bullpen. So I like the upside for Bregman. Another guy I should have mentioned at second as well on the Fanduel early only slate. Jake Cronenworth is in a great spot against Brubaker. So if you're playing, you can play him on the Fanduel early only.
Is that the very, very early, the very early, or the early only?
Just early only. None of those varies. No varies. Just early only.
Just early only. All right. Let's go to shortstop. Cardi. Right. So you mentioned Nico on FanDuel. I think you plug him in on DraftKings. It lets you get, spend up in the outfield, spend up on two good pitchers. And, I like Wander Franco, but he's 5,700. That's a very high price tag in my opinion. So I'm not really on him. The expensive guys on DK don't look too great. So your Nico play, I'm just transfer it from FanDuel over to DK here.
Yeah, Nico looks kind of like the shortstop to me here. Wander Franco is the best option. He's great, but 5.7 is a lot to pay for him. Tim Anderson projects well, but we have the weather risk there. So you kind of need to decide, if you're comfortable with that. I think though you probably do just go and play Nico Goodrum, 2.9K. The spot's pretty good. Over on FanDuel, I think you're playing Bo Bichette. The Blue Jays are just the clear best offense on that 2-game slate here. And so you're going to be, probably rolling 4 of them in your cash games.
All right. And I just want to note, it looks like everything looks like this Cardinals game is going to start on time. If and when the rain gets there, which it does look like it will at some point, that game will likely delay for an hour, maybe a little longer than that, up to maybe 2. And then it looks like they would continue that game. So as far as bats go in that game, I think you're good. Pitching, it's all when that rain gets there. Is it coming in the 4th inning? Is it coming in the 5th inning? Is it coming in the 6th inning? Maybe limiting your starting pitchers. Do they come back out after an hour, after 2 hours? Just know that as you're finalizing your lineups here with about 15 minutes to go. Keith, shortstop. What's the lay of the land here, right? On DK, right? Correa against McClanahan, 4,500. Crawford at 4,700 might be my GPP play because like the Francos, Bichette's, Andersons, they're probably all just a little bit too expensive to really get the lineup that you want today.
Yeah, I do like Crawford a lot. I mentioned San Francisco lefties in the stack portion. So he would be one of the top options there with Adon struggles against lefties. I love Tim Anderson today as well. So hopefully it's just a delay in Chicago and we can get 4 or 5 at bats from him. He's hitting at the top of the order. So he will be one of the first to get more at bats. But I love the spot for Anderson today. Correa is another one of these Minnesota righties that while I respect McClanahan as a pitcher, it's a weak slate and we've got to take some chances to get different somewhere. So I do like the Correa call.
Yeah, it gives you a leverage because McClanahan's certainly going to be one of the higher owned pitchers of the slate out there. All right, get your questions in, guys, on both YouTube and in the Crunch Time chat. I'll take them from Crunch Time chat too. First from the premium subscribers, and then I will take your YouTube questions, but feel free to start piling those into the chat boxes. Cardi outfield. So if we get the Angels, if that game was going to play without any questions, right, we'd be playing Trout and Ohtani. Which one of those would you prefer if someone wants to risk it at that point in time?
I think it's probably Ohtani for me. They're obviously both great, but Ohtani does project better. Ohtani is going to have the platoon advantage. He has more raw power to take advantage of this park. It's kind of splitting hairs, but it's Ohtani for me.
All right. And then let's say we wanted to forego any sort of PPD in that game, right? That game starts in 2 hours. What is the bat like? Because you take those out, your projection drops, right? Because you're losing some big points out of those guys. Who's throwing in there to replace them?
Yeah. So, you also have to take out the White Sox guys because guys like Luis Robert or, AJ Pollock, like they would start projecting, well here. So if you're done with the whole game, then I think you're kind of going to be focusing a little bit more on Astros, on Blue Jays, Juan Soto, just because like he's so good and, you're going to have some money to spend probably, but George Springer, especially on FanDuel, is great. all of the Houston guys on both sites are going to be great. Tucker and Alvarez in particular, but also Chas McCormick, especially on DraftKings. I mentioned earlier Jordan Luplow at first base, but I like him in the outfield a lot here. He's really cheap in a pretty good spot, and he's hitting second. So like he's just a way to like open stuff up and be able to spend on, you know, other things, to be able to spend up on some of these Astro guys, on Vlad, on Lau, on double aces. He seems kind of like a cash game lock at his price. So that's really, I think, the way I'd be approaching outfield. Over on FanDuel, where you don't have some of those options, some of the Cardinals guys, Tyler O'Neill in particular, I think looks good. Luke Plow over there, you know, is still good also. Not as good, but definitely still an option.
All right, Keith, final take on this Angels White Sox game in tournaments. Worth the risk, still orange. I just looked at the radar. The orange seems about right to me. I don't know. If I had to lean, I would think this game has some serious issues of being played today.
Yeah, I agree with you. There's serious risk, but the nature of the slate and just there's not a lot of great spots to target. The Angels spot is one of the best, so I'm fine risking it. That's a pretty high risk tolerance. So if you don't have the same risk tolerance, there's definitely risk. So there's no harm in fading it. Personally, I'm keeping them in just because there's not a lot to love on this slate. So I think it's worth the risk personally.
All right, what else? Let's pretend someone else doesn't want to do that, right? Where are the other options in the outfield they might go to?
Yeah, so I love the Astros guys as well, but if you think that people are scared off of the Angels, I think that is where the ownership goes, unfortunately, because it's a great spot for them. And then in addition, George Springer as well. That kind of leaves you empty in the top range. Byron Buxton is the guy that I mentioned. Really like him. Another one of those Minnesota righties. Tyler O'Neill, I think, is a great option as well against Kelly. He's had neutral splits throughout his career, so really like O'Neill and his power. Juan Soto in a tough matchup against Webb would be fine. Something a little bit cheaper, a guy that I love today, Luis Gonzalez, is another one of those San Francisco lefties. He did grab the leadoff spot, just 3,100 on DraftKings. Love him. I think the Tampa Bay lefties you can look to a little bit for some savings as well. Josh Lowe and Kevin Kiermaier, decent matchup with Archer there. So it falls off pretty quickly if we take the Angels and White Sox out, but I think there are a couple of spots that you can look to.
Yeah, speaking of Kiermaier, so I'm in the Crunch Time chat on Discord, Cardi. You want to bring up his pinch hit risk? What do you got? Steve-O wanted to know, what is Kiermaier's pinch hit risk today? Is he someone worth playing?
Looks like it is 20%, which is fairly high.
So if you're playing him is he someone you would maybe avoid in a stack, or would you like, it's just, he's the reasonably priced, you know, if you pound in Franco and all these other guys, you're really spending a lot of money today.
Yeah. So, I mean, like in a GPP, you're playing for upside. So like, you know, you're playing for the 80% of the time, you know, he doesn't get pinch hit for. So, you know, that, you know, I don't have a problem playing guys with high pinch hit risks in stacks. In cash games, they're bad to do usually, but in stacks, you can get away with it.
Yeah, the 20% does seem on the higher end to me. Hero wanted to know, in a tournament, Webb described as a good real life pitcher and a decent DFS pitcher. So Cardi, what does the bat see on Webb today? And then I'll get Keith's take from a tournament perspective. And Hero's question is, in 20 lineups, how many would you play him today?
Yeah, so Webb is the bat sees him clearly like a tier below Bieber and McClanahan today. It does like him a lot as a pitcher, but you know, as a DFS pitcher, maybe not as much. It's a tough spot for him. Not a tough spot, but like it's not that good of a spot. It's a big park downgrade for him. You know, Washington, let me look up real quick. Yeah, Washington is like one of the least strikeout heavy offenses on the slate. That's really what it comes down to. It's a park downgrade. It's not a good strikeout matchup. And he's more expensive than Bieber and McClanahan too. So like for cash, certainly not. In GPPs, if you're going to play him, you definitely do need, I think, a pretty significant ownership discount over the other two.
Keith, you got 20 lineups. Do you like Webb enough to play him in some of those today?
Oh, I like him enough to play him, but Cardi just mentioned the main thing right there. You're not getting a huge ownership discount. So I prefer the upside of Bieber and McClanahan by a good margin. Like, you're losing several points of projection and you're not gaining that much in the ownership department. So I mean, I like him as a pitcher, but he's not the best pivot today. I would rather pivot in the lower range on somebody like Berrios, where I'm getting a 4-to-1 ownership discount on Merrill Kelly compared to Berrios.
All right, so crunch time chat is popping off. So we got a bunch of questions in here. DFS Dre wanted to know Ruff, and this is DK Cash, Ruff and Tucker or Luplow and Alvarez today, Cardi?
Liplow and Alvarez.
All right, DK Hero wanted to know DraftKings tournament. He originally had Bart in his giant stacks. Does he just use Casali to keep it intact? That seems totally reasonable to me, Keith.
Yeah, he's cheap and catcher's a terrible position. Totally fine.
Yeah, that's fine. Here's one from Nothing But Tens. This is the FanDuel early slate. So is it concerning with a potential weather delay? Who do you use for your single entry tournament pitcher, right? If Berrios and Garcia, I'll pull up the radar again in that game to see when the how quick the rain will be there. But what's your take on that, Keith? Who would you use? You mentioned Merrill Kelly. Is that what your default is if you want absolute safety of 5 or 6 innings?
I don't think you have that safety if there's rain coming. So that's my concern. Yeah, it's a tough spot with only 2 games on the slate. I think I just eat the chalk with Berrios. He's cheaper than both of them, and the upside is greater. You can get weird with Luis Garcia if you really need a pivot, but I would probably try to differentiate the bats. If the St. Louis game starts here in a couple of minutes, I'd have some concerns doing that.
Let's see here. Trying to find the weather. I just need to bite the bullet and spend some money on Ross. Little weather app would probably be the best idea for me trying to pull things up on the show here. A couple other questions. Best pitcher FanDuel GPP from Carolina guy. Real quick, Carolina guy, can you tell me which slate are you playing? The 2 game or are you playing the 6 game? I'll make sure I get back to that before the show ends. Just let me know. I'm going to go to YouTube and take a couple of questions there. Let's see, SP2 on DraftKings. So maybe Cardi in 60 seconds. Give me the lay of the landscape for DraftKings pitching.
Play Bieber and McClanahan and Cash. That's the only correct decision.
All right. And then if you were trying to mix it up in tournaments, Keith, who would you look to on DraftKings today?
I would go overweight on the 2 guys Cardi just mentioned, and I would mix in some Merrill Kelly and Cole Irvin as cheap guys to get different.
All right. Cardi, here's one, right? We don't have too many other questions. What'd you say? San Francisco is a park downgrade for starting pitching? That's contrary to what I think most people believe, and Rocket Sauce is questioning this. Didn't they change something? Was it last year or the year before, where it's pretty much a neutral park now, right?
It's actually, for some reason, I thought this game was taking place in Washington. So it is in San Francisco. So yeah, not a park downgrade for Webb. What happened a couple of years ago was during like COVID and like social distancing, they sealed up the archway in right field to like prevent people from like congregating out there and like trying to like watch the game through it. And that kind of changed the wind patterns. It made it more hitter friendly. That's back open again. So this is a pitcher's park. But again, it's still, he's expensive. He's not like a huge K guy, and Washington is a very low K offense. So, it's not the spot for, and like we said, you're not getting a big ownership discount. If he was going to come in at 10%, yeah, great. If, he's coming in at 30, what do we have, 35 or something, or 28, it's still, that's the problem. He projects a lot worse. He's more expensive, and he's not that much lower owned.
All right, Keith. So this is the early only, I believe. Hopefully Carolina guy figured this out, and it's not the very early only. So the early slate, this is the 4 o'clock and 6 o'clock games for a GPP pitcher. Who you got on DK or on FanDuel today?
So it's the 6 game slate, you said?
Yep. You got McClanahan's 93, Bieber's 10-4. I like Luzardo over K's. That is a bet I made today. He's 8.3. Who you got out? You got Robbie Ray's in there too. Who you got?
Yeah, Luzardo is the guy I would look to. Robbie Ray's velocity has been down. This is a phenomenal matchup for strikeouts. Miami has struck out at the highest rate against left-handed pitching in Major League Baseball this year. But I'm not sold that Robbie Ray is right. There's something wrong. His velocity is down about 2 miles an hour. So I'd go Jesus Luzardo.
He, does great in Toronto. You leave Toronto, you forget how to pitch. That's why is Barrios struggling, Cardi? I thought you go to Toronto, you become a Cy Young winner.
Yeah, I guess not.
I thought that was how it works over there. All right, I think we're close to out of questions. Real quick, Cardi, people can still get some bets in. You got any favorite bets from the bat today? If you had to look a couple things up.
Yeah. So, I mean, while we're talking about Robbie Ray, his pitching outs prop is very high considering the juice you're getting on it. It's kind of moved at some books a little bit, but I think maybe DraftKings or Pinnacle, like you're getting under 17.5 at like plus 170 or plus 180 or something stupid. So I like that a lot. I like the under on Justin Steele's strikeouts, 4.5, plus.
You're too fast, Cardi. I'm trying to hit these buttons as fast as possible.
Yeah, Justin Steele 4.5 under 4.5, like plus 105, plus 115, I think is the best I see right now at BetMGM. Yeah, if Jake Fraley is leading off tonight, his stolen base prop looks really good. Yeah, so those are just a few.
All right, I got under 17.5 on. We got to use FanDuel, Cardi. They sponsor the show here. Even though I may have placed this bet at a different book. On DK, he was at plus 135 for under 17.5. You still good with that?
Let me look real quick. Yeah, that's probably still fine.
All right. Yeah, so get a couple of those bets in. Let's see here. If I have missed any other questions, I got none in Discord. It looks like YouTube. We've got all of our questions. Oh, real quick, Washington stack. That's a 4:00 game. Can we get on board Washington against Webb today? I like Soto's so good. You can play Soto as a one-off for sure.
You can definitely play Soto for sure.
Yeah, I don't love the stack because Webb is a ground ball control type of pitcher. So just a tough type of pitcher to stack against.
All right. I think that answers all the questions. We spent 45 minutes on the 2-game and then 2 different 6-game slates. So hopefully we covered all your questions for you. Hit the like button on your way out. Go check out Scores and Odds. If you want to subscribe, you can get all those nice bets. Go get all the bets Cardi just talked about. And I guess have fun out there the rest of the day. I won't be here. We're going to be doing a later crunch time show. Keith and Cardi are coming back. I won't be here. Someone else will be filling in for me. I couldn't make it. Sorry, guys. Lots of stuff going on over here today. But make sure to tune back in for the late slate. We will have a crunch time at 6:30 tonight. Other than that, good luck. For Keith and Cardi, I'm Britt. Thanks for watching, and we out ya.